This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Kevin Tucker and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic! What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is October 28th, 2024. Jonathan Osborne here, and as always, joined by my co-host, Kevin Tucker. Kevin, what's going on, man? How are you?
Doing pretty good. We're recording this Sunday night, as we always do. Disappointing 24 hours plus-ish for Orlando sports. UCF falls. The Magic fall Saturday right now. 40 minutes into Orlando City's first playoff game of the season. So far, so good. 1-0. I'm hoping they can hold on to redeem what was a difficult Saturday, Sunday for Orlando, but I'm doing good, man.
Awesome. Well, before we get to anything else, I know there are a lot of listeners and patrons, patrons that have been patrons for a little while, patrons who are maybe a little bit newer, that are waiting for us to announce the winner of the autographed Paolo Banchero jersey, the statement jersey, by the way. Kevin and I both rocking the statement jersey tonight. I'm wearing Jalen. Who are you wearing?
Paolo.
So, okay, so perfect.
In honor of the giveaway.
You're not getting the one that, if the winner wants Kevin's instead, Kevin, you're just going to have to part with that. But I'm pretty sure they're going to want the Paolo Banchero autographed jersey. So first of all, just want to say thank you to everybody. Like, the response to the giveaway has been incredible. We've been telling all of the patrons this, the last week or so since the rollout of the new branding and everything, just how genuinely appreciative we are, how much everything means to us. Can't do any of this without your support. We definitely never could have done the rebrand and all the things that we're going to be doing with the new look moving forward. So just from the both of us, thank you all so much. And without further ado, Kevin, you want to give us a little drum roll here, if that's okay. The winner of the autographed Paolo Banchero jersey is none other than Jose Marrero. Jose, really appreciate you joining the Patreon recently. And you are the lucky winner of this Paolo Banchero autographed jersey. So we'll be shipping that out here in the next couple of days. We'll be reaching out to you directly. Obviously, we have your contact information, so we're just going to get wherever you'd like us to ship that jersey. And just really hope that you appreciate that. We know that you will. And again, we just appreciate all the patrons. This won't be the last giveaway that we do. We do multiple Patreon giveaways throughout the year, but we usually do one like right at the beginning of the year to sort of like a little bit of a drive to get that going and try to make that a pretty big surprise, prize for you all and make that worth your while. So really appreciate that. And Jose Marrero, you are the lucky winner of the Patreon giveaway here in the Paolo Banchero jersey.
Who we just met, by the way, in our Zoom call, our Patreon Zoom call, by the way. Met him for the first time, so that's another thing we get to enjoy with our patrons. But yeah, shout out to all our patrons for sure.
Yeah, joined his joined his first Patreon Zoom call, the other night, shortly after him joining the Patreon. So that was awesome, and those are always a lot of fun. So even though you didn't win the jersey, if you want to hang out with us and a lot of other Magic fanatics once a month, that is really a great way to do that. Now, we've been getting asked this question basically since the last watch party. We had a watch party opening night against the Miami Heat. We were over at the Social House, East Orlando. What is that? The Waterford area, I think. But people have been asking us, when's the next watch party? People were asking us Monday, if there was going to be Saturday, if there was going to be a watch party for the Memphis game. And there was not. We usually do those about once a month. And October is basically over. We're going into November. So we are starting off November with a watch party. November 1st, we're going to be at Rivals on Wall Street, downtown Orlando. So that's where we will be. Sounds like it's like a renovated spot that they have down there. So we're looking forward to seeing that. Got a lot of good memories on Wall Street, playoff watch parties last year, the year before that, the draft lottery watch party that we would do when we still cared about, the draft lottery. We may have to care about the draft lottery this year, depending on what's going on with Denver. That's making me a little bit nervous. Somebody sent me a tankathon sim today of Denver winning the number 1 overall pick. So we don't want to see that. If that's confusing at all for you, in the Aaron Gordon trade, that we got Gary Harris and RJ Hampton back in 2021. We also got a top 5 2025 first round pick from the Denver Nuggets, and it is top 5 protected. So if they end up in the top 5, the Magic won't get that pick this year, and there are other, ways for that to convey later on down the road. But yeah, that's been an interesting development around the NBA so far. But again, we will be at Rivals on Wall Street this coming Friday. Tip off, Magic are playing the Cavs. Tip off is at 7 o'clock. So that watch party is going to get going around 6:30. And the Magic are playing Cleveland on ESPN. So it is basically like the last, what is it, four or five watch parties that we've had on Wall Street are all us playing the Cavs.
Right.
And this one will be that as well. And just looking forward to that, Kevin.
This is game 8. So come to the game 8 watch party of the series. Now it'll be interesting. Yeah. Obviously,
no, game 8 was the Summer League game.
Oh, you're right. This is game 9. This is game 9 of the series. Winner take all. So
yeah,
we'll see how it goes. Yeah, it should be interesting.
Whoever wins this plays the Celtics for the real
That's
championship from last year. So
that's right. Yeah, but definitely come out to the watch party. It'll be a lot of fun.
All right, now it is time to talk some Magic basketball, and it is the return of the weekly State of the Magic. If you are new to the show, or maybe you just forgot, every week during the regular season, I go through the weekly State of the Magic, where we talk about how the Magic fared in the past week, and then we see how they're doing overall, across the league on the season. We'll talk about their offensive rating, defensive rating, where they are in the standings, and we take a look at the injury report as well. So let's jump into this week's weekly State of the Magic. This week, the Magic went 2-1 with wins over Miami and Brooklyn, and then a loss to Memphis in Memphis on Saturday. At 2-1, the Magic are currently 4th in the East. At least the last that I checked, that Pacers game earlier had not wrapped up quite yet. So let me go ahead and take another look.
Sixers won in overtime.
There we go. So the Magic, they are still 4th in the Eastern Conference. They are 1 game back of Boston and Cleveland, a half game back of the Atlanta Hawks. They're a half game up on the Milwaukee Bucks, the New York Knicks, and the Miami Heat. And they are a full game up on the Toronto Raptors, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Chicago Bulls, the Pacers, and the Hornets. And obviously, we're just 3 games into the season, so there's not really a ton of room between the bottom of the Eastern Conference and the top, at least not yet. So far, the Magic are 9th in offensive rating with an offensive rating of 114.3. If you are not familiar with what offensive rating is, basically that is how many points per 100 possessions your team is currently scoring. So the Magic have an offensive rating of 114.3. Again, what puts them 9th in the league. And they are 6th in the league in defensive rating, which is basically how many points per 100 possessions your team is giving up. And again, they're 6th in the league with a defensive rating of 107 and 5th in overall net rating with a net rating of 7.4. Net rating is simply basically what is your point differential per 100 possessions. So for every 100 possessions the Magic play, right now they're outscoring their opponents by 7.4 points. So overall, 2 wins, 1 loss, that's going to tell you that the team is playing pretty well, regardless of how they looked Saturday night against Memphis, which we will talk about. But overall, if you just compare the Magic to other teams around the league, they're still faring pretty well, and their record and the standings would all tell you that. Taking a quick look at the injury report, luckily, not too many guys on that, and we want to keep it that way. Right now, Jonathan Isaac is still listed as questionable for Monday's game versus Indiana. He's missed the past 2 games with a sore left hip that Mosley has called its precautionary measure to hold him out. But we've seen precautionary measures with Jonathan Isaac in the past. But we're hoping and expecting that he'll be back before we know it. And then Tristan da Silva, he is also listed as questionable versus Indiana on Monday. He missed Saturday's game against Memphis with an undisclosed illness, hoping that none of the team catches that illness by any means. We saw what that did to this Magic team last year. Hope he's back pretty quickly here and hope Jonathan Isaac is back. But so far, Kev, through 3 games, nothing crazy has happened, but we do want to get Jonathan Isaac back as soon as we can.
Yeah, I mean, for me, what stands out in that whole thing is the offensive rating. 9th in the league, and that's in spite of, as you mentioned, Saturday's loss, which offense wasn't good. Saturday shot the ball terribly. And yet you're still top 10 in the league offensive rating. That obviously most people don't expect the Magic to continue that over the course of 82 games, but through 3 games, top 10 offensive rating, you will take that for sure. Defense obviously doesn't surprise anyone to be top 10, but again, like you said, in spite of Saturday's game, the Magic are top 10 in both, which is pretty crazy to me.
I'll give you even one better. The Magic are 7th in 3-point attempts, and they are 6th in 3-point percentage right now.
Wow.
How sustainable that is, I think we will talk about that, but that is encouraging early on. It's just 3 games. Everything that we talk about today, let's just say this now. Everything we're going to be talking about, it's an incredibly small sample size. I don't think it's anything to get too excited about, get too low about. Once we get around like the 10-game mark, I'll start to feel like we have a good amount of data to really start maybe drawing some conclusions. Some people are, drawing or jumping to conclusions already, which is understandable. We're very emotional. I can't tell you how many times I was not happy with I'll just put it that way, not happy with the way that we were playing Saturday night. But, you just have to remember, like, it's a long season, 82 games, weird things are going to happen. And, eventually, we'll see at the end of the year where their record is and what kind of team this really is. But, let's go ahead and talk about these games, Kevin. First of all, let's go back to Friday night, the home opener versus the Brooklyn Nets. You were watching from home from Savannah. You're, not really able to travel, at least not all the way to Orlando just yet. So I know that was killing you. But what was for you, like the broadcast experience for opening night? How did you find that?
Yeah, it was a good time. I get very disappointed when, especially opening night, they don't show the player intros. So that was kind of frustrating. We got a little glimpse of it here and there, but just during the commercials on League Pass and stuff. But that frustrated me. But outside of that, it was a good time. Obviously you could tell there was some energy in the building. Everyone glad to be back and such. And I think there was some pretty good energy as far as during the game in the beginning, once the Magic had a pretty good first quarter, and then things kind of got a little sleepy there, maybe the second and third quarter, as the Nets just kept hanging around, which we'll talk about. But then the fourth quarter, obviously able to pull away, and you felt some energy there. So all in all, pretty good. But yeah, I'm more interested in hearing from you. I want to hear from you what the in-game experience, in-arena experience was like on Friday night.
So I was in the building last year for games 3 and game 6. I wasn't there for game 4, but I was hoping that we would just basically like carry over that energy, which was a very unrealistic thing to ask. Like, it's a regular season game, especially like game 6, do or die. But I was hoping for that because it was so much fun, and I want to experience that again, and we will, of course. Right. But saying that, it was not a playoff atmosphere necessarily, but I think that is my 12th consecutive home opener that I've been to at that building, and those are the only home openers that I've been to. A home opener never felt like that, where sure, there was some people that were trickling in a little bit late, but for the most part, it felt like the stands were pretty full by tip-off. And the last couple of years, they've been trying to start this tradition of like everybody stands, before tip-off. Hasn't really, had a lot of traction, at least in the regular season the last year or so. But this season, like, everybody was standing for the tip-off, and that was really cool to see. And like you said, the energy of the crowd was really great, especially when it felt like the Magic were getting off to a good start. But yeah, as Brooklyn got into that game, and you were just kind of waiting for the Magic to figure it out and be like, okay, this is a game that we should win pretty comfortably. And they did end up doing that, and we'll break down the entire game. But once it became obvious that the Magic were doing that, that's when the crowd got back into it, and it was a ton of fun and everything like that.
Yeah, that's what you love to see. And obviously, ultimately, you get to play the song at the home opener. That's always going to be a good thing. So you can't complain about that.
All right, let's go ahead and break down the game here. So the Magic, they did get off to a good start in that first quarter. But the Nets, they came back. To their credit, Dennis Schroeder was really good throughout the night, but especially in that first quarter, 9 points. Brooklyn up 1 at the end of that first quarter, and now the Magic were able to come back, win the second quarter, and go into half with, I believe it was a 3-point lead. And we met with a lot of Magic fans out on the concourse during halftime. Everybody's coming up like, what's going on? Why doesn't the team look the way that they did, the other night in Miami? And to Brooklyn's credit, right, like you and I, we talked about our predictions for the Eastern Conference. I think we both had the Nets, towards the bottom of the Eastern Conference. And I think this Nets team is going to be a little bit more frisky than, people anticipated. I definitely think they're going to be better defensively than I thought. But it does help that, some guys, maybe they didn't have incredible shooting performances throughout the night, but definitely had like stretches of the game where they were knocking down enough shots to, really keep themselves in it. And I always say like, I don't like to blame the refs, but I am always the first person to jump all over the refs when it doesn't feel like, calls are going our way. Yeah. Much like game one in Miami, where it felt like the first half the Magic weren't getting any calls, and then the second half the Magic started to get the benefit of the doubt and the benefit of the whistle. This game was really the same way. Like the Magic end up shooting, I believe it was 33 free throws in this game. They shot 23 free throws in the second half. So it's not, there were some bad whistles on the Magic, like especially on Anthony Black. There was a foul call where he pokes the ball loose from Cam Thomas. That would have been his fourth personal foul. Jamal Mosley reviews it. Challenge is successful. And I mean, he still went to the bench with 3 fouls at that point, but it was more so just like the Magic were really pushing the issue and trying to get to the rim, and guys were getting hammered and weren't getting calls. But then it seemed like, at least in that first half, that every sort of little ticky-tack foul or any type of contact on Brooklyn's end was resulting in them getting free throws. But Magic come out in that second half, and like you said, still a little bit sleepy. But like the last, 4 minutes of that third quarter, and then into like the first, 5 or 6 minutes of that fourth, the Magic really took over and extended the lead out to as much as 18. And at that point, the game was pretty much over. End up going to the reserves at the end. But home opener, coming away with a win. Brooklyn, to their credit, did put up a better fight than I anticipated. Big nights out of Dennis Schroeder, Cam Thomas, Dorian Finney-Smith knocked down some threes as well. I don't want to say that it felt like the Magic were playing with their food, but they sort of showed us that other gear that they have that we saw opening night in Miami, and they turned that on in the end of the third, beginning of the fourth, and just made this not so much a game. And I'm just happy to get the win on opening night.
Yeah, you talk about Brooklyn, quite literally, Jonathan, since you and I have been talking, they finished off their win tonight over Milwaukee. They just beat Milwaukee, so credit to Brooklyn. Again, very pesky team. I think they're going to surprise some people. Still don't think they'll be very good, but they'll be difficult, on a lot of nights. But yeah, as far as this game goes, a couple guys that stood out to me. I thought Jalen was pretty good. The thing with him that was interesting was limited minutes for him, so he doesn't play. I don't think he played at all in the fourth quarter. Much, the whole game he ended up with 21 minutes. Ultimately, Jamal Mosley, I think, was just kind of trusting what he was seeing with Anthony Black and Cole Anthony when he was out there. And so both Jalen and KCP got rested there in the fourth quarter, which was kind of a cool move, basically setting him up for the back-to-back, on Saturday. So I love what we saw from Jalen. Paolo, not necessarily a great Paolo game, especially coming off of Wednesday's performance in Miami. Free throws for Paolo continue to be a struggle for him. Goes 6 of 11 from the line, but obviously the big storyline on Friday's game was Franz. Franz was terrific. Ends up with 29.6 boards, 5 assists, 10 of 19 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3. Needless to say, I think the 3-point shot is probably officially back.
Are you ready to say that? And the reason that I ask is like we've spent so much time, like literally a full calendar year. I am not ready to say like it's officially back 3 games in. Okay. Give me another 3 games of, he's not going to shoot 50% every night, but give me another few games of, relatively, 35, 40%. If he's shooting 3 of 7, 3 of 8 over the course of the next few games, I'll feel a little bit more comfortable. And that's really just like the superstitious part of me. Right. Because the eye test tells you that it's a heck of a lot better. It doesn't look nearly as flat. He doesn't seem to have like that super wide base, when he starts up into the shot. So it does seem like it is back, but I just want to like wait until it's like, okay, it really is back. Because again, last year for the first couple of weeks, we thought Paolo Banchero was a 40% 3-point shooter all of a sudden. And hopefully Franz can keep it up, but the early signs have been very encouraging.
The early signs at least indicate that he's not a 27, 28% 3-point shooter like last year.
So I will agree with that for sure.
Again, I don't think he's a 50% 3-point shooter, but better than 28. And the other standout for me in this game, Mo Wagner, Franz's brother, when he was on the court, could do pretty much whatever he wanted, which was pretty cool. There was a lot of small ball for Brooklyn on Friday. Nick Claxton just coming back from injury, didn't play a ton, and so I thought Mo was great. AB was good. So all in all, not a pretty game, but hey, every win counts, and we'll take this one. So definitely pretty happy with what we saw on Friday.
Yeah, to the point about Paolo, 15 points, 4 of 13 from the floor. You talk about the free throw issues, 9 assists, 0 turnovers. Brooklyn's entire defensive strategy was we are going to sell out on Paolo Banchero. We're going to make everybody else beat us.
Yep.
He was seeing 2 to 3 to the ball every possession. And the 9 assists to 0 turnovers tells you that he was making the correct decision pretty much every time. When we talk about some of the issues with the officiating, 4 of 13 from Paolo, it felt like probably at least 3 or 4 of those attempts should have resulted in free throws. Now, shot 54.5% at the free throw line. So would that really have made a difference for him, like getting to the free throw line? Because he's just not making them right now. And we'll talk more about that in the Memphis game. But that was part of the frustration for me. So yeah, it was not a great Paolo game, but he still found a way to really impact the game. And that's what the best players do. Even when the ball is not going in the basket, you find other ways to make an impact. And yeah, the 29 points from Franz were awesome. The 18 from Mo Wagner. We saw Kentavious Caldwell-Pope get to knock down his first threes in a Magic uniform. Jalen was 2 of 3, was really solid. Yeah, Anthony Black, another solid game for him. 10 points, 5 assists off the bench in 26 minutes. And you mentioned how Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Jalen Suggs didn't play at all in that fourth quarter. Got a little bit of rest, which, we're going to talk about rest and back-to-backs and all that stuff as we talk about this Memphis game. But it was good for the Magic to get tested a little bit, show that they do have that extra gear to go to. Second game of the season, we get a Jamal Mosley technical already because of the officiating in this game. Did not have that on the bingo card. I don't know if that's going to be a more regular occurrence. The one thing that I will say is, 4 or 5 years ago, those Evan Fournier, Nikola Vucevic teams, it felt like no matter what our guys did, if they said one word to the officials, it doesn't matter what temperament they had when they would approach the officials. If they said anything, it was always a technical foul. Now we see our guys like sometimes borderline berating the officials,
right,
and not getting technicals. I think part of that is the style of play and how physical they are, that they get the benefit of the doubt. But, if you get in the refs' ears enough, they can't call technicals on everything. So they do let some things go. I don't think we're to the point where it's like annoying, but this game, it kind of felt like it could have got to that level, but the Magic never really let it affect the way that they played. And to me, that was the big thing. I like seeing Jamal Mosley get a little spicy and let the refs hear it a little bit, Maybe you don't always want to see that from the head coach, but I felt like it was warranted.
Yeah, and we also saw in this game, like, Kenny, KCP, really kind of show his veteran prowess, if you will. Like, there were a couple moments where it felt like you're saying, things could have gotten a little bit out of hand as far as the refs or the physicality or whatever. And you saw a couple times, I remember seeing him pull Jalen aside, and he pulled someone else aside at a different time and just be like, hey, let's settle down. Maybe give him some thoughts there about how, they can maybe approach the game differently or approach the officiating differently or whatever. And so definitely love seeing that. KCP also gets his first couple threes in a Magic uniform in this game, which was cool. And had a nice dunk, by the way. Kind of elevated and detonated on the break. I did not expect that much authority from Kentavious Caldwell-Pope on that dunk, so that was nice too. Yeah, cool to see him do that. Another just tiny little thing from this game, Jonathan. The Jet Howard 3 in front of his dad, that was amazing. Yeah. He's the highest scoring son of a former NBA player or NBA guy, I guess, on the court in front of his dad this season. He's got three more points than Bronny. So that's pretty cool. But anyway, no, that genuinely was a really, really special moment. Like, he could not have been closer to his dad when he took that 3 at the end of the game there. That was pretty fun. But
all Jet Howard does is check into games and knock down threes right away. We're going to talk more about that, but that just continues to be a theme.
Yeah, on Friday and Saturday. Wednesday he did not. Let's not forget that. Wednesday he missed several times.
Everybody did.
Everybody did. But Wednesday. That was awesome on Friday.
So a guy that we hadn't really seen in quite a while, Ben Simmons, in almost 24 minutes, 7 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, a block. He was a minus 17 on the night. I do think that obviously he's still an NBA caliber player, right? The days of him being an all-star and borderline star in the league, I think those days are gone.
Yeah,
he looked pretty solid defensively. I will give him that
for sure.
And early in the game, they were running everything through Ben Simmons, and he still just seems to be able to get to the rim whenever he wants to. He didn't totally take advantage of that. He also had a lot of foul trouble in this game, finished the game with 5 fouls. What were your thoughts on Ben Simmons?
I mean, defensively, he definitely stood out to me. Like you said, I thought he was really good, which is to be expected. That's what he was, when he was still, a high level basketball player. But, as far as offensively, he just seems like another dude. He's just another dude on the court now, which is pretty wild. At least he's on the court now. He wasn't on the court for a very long time, so I'll give him credit. But yeah, I think he's a high level defender, but what he gives you on offense, not a whole lot now. Again, like you said, the foul trouble maybe contributed to it. Maybe he gets more opportunities to go to the rim at some point. But yeah, he was just another dude on the court to me.
And now for a quick word from our sponsors and the return of one of our, if not our very favorite segment of the show, where each week we talk about the best magic dunks of the week. In our partnership with Jam Hot Chicken, we are bringing you the Jam of the Week. And this week's Jam of the Week, we're going to go back to Wednesday. Do you all remember Wednesday when we beat the dirty, stinking, freaking Heat on their home court the night that they dedicated the court to Pat Riley and we blew those bums out of the water? Well, let's take you back to the fourth quarter. We're going to start at the 8:20 mark of the fourth quarter where Jaime Jaquez tries a full cross-the-court pass to Duncan Robinson, and Franz Wagner steps right in the way. And then he and Anthony Black have the 2-on-1 on poor Terry Rozier. Franz lobs it up to AB, who catches it with both hands, throws down the dunk, and gives the Magic a 27-point lead on their way to rout that is hot. No pun intended. Jam hot, Heat, a lot of stuff going on there. And that is this week's Jam of the Week. But Jam Hot Chicken is bringing you jams, culture, all the good stuff. They are located over there at 400 West New England Avenue in Winter Park, Florida, and they are legitimately the best chicken that I've ever had. We were there opening night, home opener before the game, ran into a lot of listeners, one of our patrons, Nala, ran into my buddy Josh, who I've been talking online, who lives in Toronto, by the way.
Wow.
Flew all the way to Toronto to see his first home Orlando Magic game, and he said, I'm here, I've got to stop by Jam Hot Chicken. And he did confirm that it was very hot. He went with the hot level, Kevin, against our warnings, where we tell people, if you're going, whatever you normally get other places, go one step below. They even have a 1.5 option that they call the Franco. That's what Carmen gets now. Instead of the mild, she goes with the 1.5. But everybody agreed that it was some of the best chicken that they've had, some of the best hot chicken. Even people that have been in Nashville and LA and all those other places, they all agree that Jam Hot Chicken is some of the best Nashville and LA inspired hot chicken in the world. So if you all are in the Winter Park area, maybe you don't want to step outside. Maybe you just want to get that delivered to your house. They are now on Uber Eats, so you can go into the Uber Eats app and get Jam delivered directly to your door. We love those guys over at Jam Hot Chicken, Kev.
Yeah, we talked about this at the top of the show, but none of this would be possible without our patrons. Specifically today, it's Ray Pastrana, Magic Kid 714, Mysterious Mosley, Nick from the Cloud, and Jacob Swish. Those are 5 of our Hall of Fame and Elite Tier patrons. We've got an amazing group of patrons who financially support the show. Again, we couldn't do this without them. And we also shout out our brand new patrons. We have several as we were running the Paolo giveaway. We have Jonathan Garcia, Luis Rosario, Seth Berry, DC Magic, Evan Harris, Daniel Flores, and Mo Riz Wagner. All of them have joined at the Hall of Fame or Elite Tier level this week. And so big shout out to them and all of our patrons, again, who financially support the show. None of this would be possible without them. And if you want to join our Patreon family, you can go to patreon.com/the6thman-show. And now back to the episode.
The other thing that I wanted to bring up about Ben Simmons is there's a video that started to circulate, I think, on like Nets Twitter, and then it made its way to Magic Twitter, is from the tunnel after the game. Ben Simmons is walking to the locker room, and as he has already passed some, I'm assuming they're Magic fans, one of them yelled, "Ben, you suck," or whatever. Then Dennis Schroeder comes over, confronting the kids, asking like who said that. Then Ben Simmons and several members of the Brooklyn Nets team and staff make their way over. And then there's basically like a bit of an altercation with a fan and a fan's father. I'm assuming this is probably a young kid. And then the kids filming it are screaming in the back like, "Oh, this is going on ESPN. This is going on ESPN." And then it seemed like somebody was kicked out of the building. Yeah. We'll talk about this. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, first off, you missed the part where they said, I don't remember what it was. Like you said, "Ben, you're trash," or whatever. But, he's after that happened, Ben Simmons turned around and walked back and said, "Why did you say it when I was right here? Like when I was right in front of your face, why did you wait until I had passed and I was 20 feet away and my back was to you?" Which, fair point, Ben Simmons. I think you're right. But yeah, don't don't do that. Like if you are either gifted or just privileged enough to have the opportunity to stand in an NBA tunnel and be within, talking distance to NBA players, don't be that guy, right? That's such a privilege that so many people would like kill to be able to do, right? So if you're able to, whether you're sitting on the, close to the court or whether you're standing in the tunnel, don't be that guy. Like, sure, you can talk a little smack and stuff, but when you start name calling and like, I don't know, it's tacky, it's lame. To me, and there are going to be some fan bases, maybe up in the Northeast that are like, whatever, that's just another day in the office. But for me, like, just you got to show a little bit of discretion there. And I know he's a kid, and so he'll learn from that. But just don't be that guy. That's all I got to say.
Well, the irony is that in that video, you hear somebody saying, like, way to ruin it for everybody.
Right.
And luckily, this incident didn't really get out of hand. But if it had escalated further and something did happen, that's when you see something like a league-wide change of fans no longer allowed in the tunnel.
Right.
When players are, home and away players are walking down it. What I will say is I'm not the kind of guy that yells at players like as they're walking by, like you suck or whatever. I like screaming at them from, my seats just into obscurity when I know they, can't really hear me. And it's like, has nothing to do with like, oh my gosh, he heard me say that he sucks. It's just like, he doesn't really need to hear that I think that he sucks. I'm just expressing my feelings as a fan in the stands. But, you walk out through the visitor tunnel, after a game, sometimes you get booed. People are going to say things, all that kind of stuff. This kid just was really in the wrong spot to do that. Yeah. When it's, 15,000 people in an arena and everybody's kind of yelling crazy stuff, of course, they're not going to say anything. But when a player can easily just turn around and be like, what did you say? And now, you're face to face with them. Probably not the smartest thing to do. The thing that I had the biggest problem with was the kids filming and instigating while all this is happening.
Yeah.
Look, this is going on ESPN. This is going on ESPN. First of all, it's not going on ESPN, you idiot.
Yeah.
And second of all, like just trying to take advantage of that moment and escalate it, and then you're like mocking the situation. That was the point that I didn't really care about. But yeah, like, not my style. If you do want to, yell at players as they're walking by, I mean, to me, that is part of it, right? Like being the man in the arena, but it's not smart to do it in the tunnel when a guy can just turn around and be right there in your face. It's kind of a crappy thing to do regardless. That's why I don't yell at players as they're walking by and all that kind of stuff. But I just hope that this is a lesson to other people that, like you said, Kev, have that privilege. And that's probably not the best use of that.
Yeah, no, and like you said, absolutely could ruin it for everyone, like in a heartbeat. And we've seen that before. I think it was Phoenix. I don't remember who was playing there, but they have a tunnel. Their tunnel goes through like a gift shop, which is weird. And there was some sort of altercation, same thing. Like a Phoenix fan yelled at, again, I can't remember which visiting team was, but that ended up like guys getting face to, like there was no barricade between them. Like it was like guys getting all up in their face. And yeah, so all it takes is one moment and that gets ruined for everybody. So yeah, don't be that guy. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. And if you're the dad, like I understand it's a young kid. You don't want a grown man like step into your son, but like you got to check your kid. Be like, yo, yeah. you were an idiot, for doing that. But
yeah.
Anyways, let's go ahead and let's talk about this game from Saturday night in Memphis. Like the beginning of this game, it didn't ever really feel right. It didn't feel like the Magic were 100% there. Early turnovers leading to the Memphis Grizzlies just getting out in transition and really getting whatever they wanted offensively. And offensively, it didn't really seem like the Magic were really ever fully clicking until late in that third quarter when they did start to have some shots falling. But it was just a weird game, Kevin. I don't really know any other way to put it. You're down by as much as 29 in this game. You go on a 21-0 run in that third quarter to close the lead to 8. And then almost immediately, Grizzlies come back, go on a small run of their own, push the lead back out to double digits. And it seemed like the Magic just didn't really have the gas to go all the way back. And we've seen this from Magic teams in the past where they get down like this. They dig themselves too deep of a hole. You always know the run is coming. I was texting with one of my buddies at halftime, and he's saying, what's going on? I said, the Magic are going to go on a run.
Yep.
It just depends on when that run comes and how like deep that hole is when they go on that run, and if they're able to sustain that and close it out. And the fact that it was the second night of a back-to-back, you're either even going to have less in the tank to complete that comeback. We can't really use that as an excuse, however, because Memphis, it was also their second night of a back-to-back. A lot of turnovers in this game. Magic end up with 19 turnovers. I believe it was 14 turnovers in the first half, so definitely did a good job of taking care of the basketball in the second half. When you're down by 26 at half, because of those turnovers, because of the Grizzlies getting out in transition, and then I think it was like the last 8 possessions for the Magic of the first half, just jacking threes, seemingly trying to get it all back in one possession. It wasn't happening. That 8 also includes like a last second heave by Jalen Suggs. So maybe it's like the last 7 possessions, but still you don't want to see the last 7 possessions, or you probably never want to see 7 possessions in a row and in 3-point attempts. And not all of those were like wide open looks. Like they were early shot clock, some of those being contested. Not a great night all around. I know we're going to talk about like specific moments of the game and specific players and the way that they performed, but it was frustrating because we saw this team not look perfect in the first half of the first couple of games, but play well enough to have leads in both of those games. And then we saw that extra gear that they had in the second half. They got to that second gear, that next gear in the second half of this game, but you don't want to do that when you're down 29 points, right? Like that's just not the time for it. So Kevin, let's talk about this. What were some of your takeaways from this one?
Yeah, I think you and I are going to differ a little bit maybe in how we see this game, because for me, I think I would probably give Memphis more credit than I would maybe have issues with how Orlando played. And what I mean is this, like Memphis clearly had a game plan, like from the tip, that they are just going to run the whole night. It didn't matter if it was a make, a miss, a turnover, random inbounds out of a timeout. It didn't matter. They're going 100 miles an hour all the time. And when I say I give them maybe more credit is because, like I said, they had a game plan. They executed it really well. And on the flip side, I think, like, if I were to just like summarize, especially that first half, it almost felt like the Magic were not prepared for that. And to me, that, again, this is just the eye test, falls less on the players and more on potentially the coaching staff. I don't know. Like, I don't know what kind of conversations were had about this Memphis matchup. Obviously, you don't have a ton of film. Memphis played 2 games before this matchup on Saturday, and so maybe they were unprepared. Maybe it was just Memphis being at home for their opener, and they just went crazy. I don't know what it was, but it just felt like the Magic were a little shell-shocked from the beginning, and they tried to match that like frantic pace that Memphis was going for, and it just did not end up going well. Like I think we had 14 turnovers in the first half. Like that's crazy. 14 turnovers in the first half. Like you said, taking a ton of threes, rushing things, and then defensively, maybe even worse, like just a ton of easy looks. Points in the paint were crazy. I think, Memphis had 62 points in the paint in this game. And so the Magic just totally played into Memphis's hands. And again, for me, how much of the blame is that on the players? How much of the blame is that on the coaching staff? Who knows? But just for me, that's my initial reaction, is it felt like the Magic just did not expect this and they didn't know how to react to it. And so that's kind of where I sit with them. Obviously, credit for them trying to come back in that third quarter. If they were down 21 instead of 29, they would have come back all the way. But yeah, too much of a deficit there. But again, give them credit. Like you said, we know this team's always going to make a run. Just a matter of how big the run can be. So I'll give them credit for that, but just not enough. And yeah, let's not forget, I know Memphis was bad last year. It's because they had all those injuries. This is a really good basketball team, likely going to be a playoff team, and they showed it on Saturday. So yeah, difficult loss for sure.
I don't totally disagree with you by like giving Memphis a lot of credit, and maybe there was an element of the Magic being unprepared. When I point to the Magic, it's just that, especially defensively, like there were a lot of lapses. Like I can remember 2 possessions, especially from Jalen Suggs, who was not great in this game on either end of the floor, had a really, really nice third quarter. But especially that first half, was really struggling where, he's basically stuck watching the ball, turning his back to his defender, and his defender just, moving into open space and getting the ball and be able to make plays out of that. And Paolo, don't want to rag a ton on Paolo, but there were like some possessions where he just was like letting, Jaren Jackson Jr. or whoever it was just do like really whatever they wanted, and didn't seem to be playing with the same level of like defensive intensity that we are used to from this team. Mo Wagner getting absolutely cooked by Jay Huff. right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that cannot happen. That was one of my, critiques for this game, is that I would have liked to see a little bit more Goga Batadze, especially as Jay Huff was popping off and they were playing that double big lineup of Jay Huff and Jaren Jackson Jr. That's like a no-win scenario for Mo Wagner, getting matched up on either of those guys because Jay Huff was doing whatever he wanted when Mo Wagner was on him. And we are not really going to ask Mo Wagner to guard Jaren Jackson Jr. with any type of regularity. So I felt like that was an adjustment that maybe we could have gone to, that we really just refused. The beginning of this game and the first few games here, we're seeing a pattern of Paolo Banchero playing the entire first quarter. We know from the piece that he did with Anscaped and Mark Spears that he's looking to play more, work on his conditioning, work on his body, all of that. I don't know if playing the entire first quarter is a part of that, but like the last couple of minutes of these first quarters, Paolo Banchero has just looked absolutely gassed. And it seems like right now Mosley has an idea of what he's doing with like that first rotation. The Nets game and in this game more specifically, it felt like after that initial rotation, there wasn't really a strong like structure or rhyme or reason of what we were doing with the rotations. I think part of that could have been that he was just kind of looking for something, looking for a group that wasn't just going to give up points at will, maybe have a little bit, more rhythm offensively. But I do think there were some weird things. And again, I don't know if it's them being unprepared or what it is. Like sometimes teams are just going to have weird nights like this. To me, it was unfortunate because, we came into the season with high expectations. My expectations have been heightened a little bit by those first two games. We talk about sample size. My emotions have no idea what sample size means at times. And for us to look sort of like that unorganized on both ends of the floor for the majority of the game, and just our third game was like, it didn't feel great. Again, I don't like the sky is not falling. We're not saying do anything crazy, but it just was not a great feeling to see them just be like completely outclassed buzzer to buzzer in this game. You've got another opportunity coming up on Monday. That is the beauty of the NBA. But I tweeted this during like that fourth quarter, window when it was apparent that the Magic weren't going to be able to come back. And I said, this is the part of basketball season that I do not miss, just being annoyed and frustrated with your favorite team. And it's never a thing of like, these guys suck, they're not good enough, blah, blah, blah. Please don't ever misunderstand my energy. It is always coming from a place of I know how good these guys are, and I get frustrated when they don't live up or play to that standard. So, but yeah, weird game. I think, you make a good point. Like Memphis played really freaking well. Like every guy that came into the game pretty much was killing us. But, it just never feels good to watch your team get their butts kicked.
Yeah, especially when you're giving up 40 combined points to Jay Huff and Santi Aldama, right? Like, you never want to do that. That's never good.
Hey, can we talk about Jay Huff, like, just for a minute? Like, a guy that was
Yep.
literally on the roster that
Yep.
Magic fans were, like, begging to be on a two-way. Why are we the only team in the league with an open two-way spot? Like, what magical player is coming down the pipeline that we're saving that two-way spot for?
I don't know. I think we all wanted to be Jay Huff, but that train has sailed. Yeah, someone mentioned that. Someone mentioned that in the post game live chat Saturday night. It was like, hey, we could sign Jay Huff. I was like, brother, Jay Huff's an NBA player now. Like, no, he's. I mean, obviously, super happy for him. Like, you kidding me? It's not just Saturday, by the way. He's been playing great. That's why he's getting minutes, because he's been playing great preseason, regular season. Maybe not, 7 of 9, 18 points, great, but he's been really, really good for them.
Knocking down threes, reverse. Like possible
he's got
in-one dunks.
That patented reverse dunk thing down, which is pretty wild. But
pretty gross.
That
blocking
was kind of crazy.
Shots.
Yeah, that
barking at Mosley. I was like, man, I don't like that you're doing that right now, but I know why you're doing it, and I respect it.
Yeah, I was about to say, cannot blame you. So yeah, a little bit of a Jay Huff revenge game. But yeah, it's obviously, like you said, a weird one. Yeah, the team stats were the ones that like really stood out to me. Like I said, the 62 points in the paint, 24 fast break points for Memphis, 66 bench points for Memphis, which is wild. And
at one point early in the third, they had almost as many points in the paint as we had points.
Right. Yeah. They just took over. I mean, and then it ends up with 19 Magic turnovers. So credit the Magic, only turning the ball over 5 times in the second half, but still ended up leading to 30 points off Memphis turnovers. So yeah, all in all, not a good night, but like you said, benefit of the NBA is there's another another game soon, and we get to look forward to the game against Indiana on Monday.
Let's talk about some of the. I'm saying let's talk about highlights as I'm about to name like another low light. Paolo Banchero, second straight game in a row, 16 points, 4 of 12 from the floor, had 7 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, 7 of 13 at the free throw line. Another game where he misses 6 free throws. Even more so than Brooklyn, Memphis was completely selling out on Paolo Banchero. Like, it was 2 to 3 guys to the ball every single touch, and a handful of possessions, it was like 4 or 5 guys shaded to Paolo Banchero, like all eyes on Paolo.
Right.
And 3 assists in this game, 3 turnovers. Guys weren't knocking down shots, as you can tell. Magic shot 42% from the floor, 35% from the three-point line. And if you take away that third quarter, it's a heck of a lot worse than that.
Oof, yeah.
Right? Like, this ended up being a 13-point loss for the Magic. This was more like a 20-plus point loss for the Magic. Yeah. Like, the way that they were knocking down threes, the way the Jet comes into the end of the game, hit some threes, closed the gap. I think it was like 3 threes in that fourth quarter once Jet came in. We will talk about Jet Howard. But like, this game was not that close, and the Magic need more than 2 guys to have a good quarter in the game to take some of the offensive load off of Paolo Banchero.
Yeah, and I think part of it is there's a difference, again, not to rag on the Nets, but there's a difference when you're getting double teamed, triple teamed by a Dennis Schroeder or, Cam Thomas or whoever, versus Saturday when it's Marcus Smart coming over to help and you've got Jaren Jackson on you and like some of the best defenders in the league. Like, again, we talked about it. We said Memphis is going to be the biggest test of the season so far, obviously early, but that's why they've got a lot of really good players. Jonathan, there's something else from this game that I kind of want to talk about. And obviously the Magic dug themselves into an enormous hole, which they never should have done. First half was a disaster. However, they were climbing back, found themselves within striking distance in that third quarter. Were they eventually going to run out of gas? Probably. However, there was like a stretch there in that third quarter when Mo Wagner checked into the game, Cole Anthony checked into the game, and there were just several borderline boneheaded decisions, and then one really bad one. I think the Cole Tech was one of the things that just kind of totally turned the tide. I think there was something right before that where Franz, what happened? There was something that Franz wanted challenged. I can't remember what it was. A goaltender, he got hit on the head or something. I don't remember what it was. But Franz was adamant that Mosley should have challenged it. And I that was when the lead was 8. I remember that. That's when the lead was 8. And I really wish Mosley would have just, if for nothing else, been able to get a timeout there to like just chill everybody out, but maybe also review it. Didn't happen. Memphis ends up scoring a 3 on the next possession. Then 1 or 2, 3 possessions later, whatever it was, that's when the Cole Anthony, Mo Wagner thing, those guys, and then the Cole Anthony tech was just like an absolute deflator. And one of the dumbest techs I can remember in a long time, because this team has worked so hard to get back into this game. I think you're down 11 or 12 at this point. You're starting to feel it slip away. Cole Anthony only plays 7 minutes in this game. And as part of those 7 minutes, he chooses to have a little temper tantrum over what was not really that egregious of a call, if you ask me. Like, was it maybe a foul? Maybe, but it wasn't like a clear cut, oh my goodness, the refs missed a call. And then he goes, he knows what he's doing. He knows he's going to get a tech. Like, this is not one of those like 50-50, let me just get a word in there and see if I... No,
like, the intention was to get a tech.
The intention was to get a tech. And it was not the right time. It was not the right place. And it added to what was, the lead was getting away from you again. And that like really frustrated me. Like that again, Cole's like window here is getting smaller and smaller. And if you're going to spend part of your 7 minutes doing that, that's not cool. And it and not
again,
only just
like was not, it might not even have been a foul.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Like,
it didn't bother me.
You make the shot. Like, it's not like you thought you got fouled and you missed it. Like, you right. Still made it. There wasn't a ton of contact.
And what I wonder is, like, us as fans, I know there are a lot of fans mad about it because the chat was full of it, during our post-game show. If we're mad about it, I wonder if the locker room, like, they talk about accountability and stuff. They talk about some of the vets, KCP and Gary and all that kind of stuff. Like, is that a moment where they go, Cole, what are you doing? Like, does that happen?
In a closer game, I feel like it, but it's hard to like get on one guy for something when the whole team was down 29.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But at the time, it was like an 11-point game with several minutes left in the third quarter. That game's not over. You're 100% right. Like the whole team, pooped the bed in the first half.
Yeah.
But when the team works so hard to get back into it, and that, I don't know, that just really rubbed me the wrong way. And again, I think that's just with everything else combined with Cole that we've seen this season. I think it was just not a good look, at least to me.
So what you were referring to with Franz is the Magic are making their run. It's a 10-point game with 2:58 left in the third. Jalen blocks Scotty Pippen Jr. He throws Anthony Black to the ground in frustration. So now they review it. It's a flagrant foul. It's 2 shots and the ball. Anthony Black makes both free throws to cut it to 8. And then on the ensuing inbounds pass, Franz Wagner touches Scottie Pippen Jr. on the back, and they whistle that for an offensive foul. Franz is automatically, swirling his hand in the air, calling for a review, a challenge, and then Jaren Jackson Jr. hits a floater, puts it to 10.
Memphis went really quick there because they knew.
Yep, exactly.
They knew. You saw how fast they went for that inbound. They knew. So
Franz turns the ball over the very next possession, and then who hits a freaking 3? Jay Huff hits a 3 to push the lead back out to 13. And at that point, it was not that all the momentum went to Memphis, but all the momentum that we had was neutralized in that, literally in that 15 seconds of play there. So that's an incident where I would have liked, as soon as I see Franz Wagner's reaction, Jamal Mosley, timeout, challenge that. Like you said, regardless of whether or not you win that challenge, at least it's a moment for some of those guys to catch their breath. And then another issue is Mo Wagner hits a 3 later in this game. They're trying to get back into it. He's celebrating, and his man is running to the other end for, I believe it was a wide open dunk or something like that. He's celebrating after the 3, and his guy is going the other way to score. So Mo Wagner talked about this. I didn't feel like he was great in this game. Didn't think it was a good matchup for him. I think you do have to handle, especially in that second unit, if J.I. is not going to be in it. If Mo Wagner just cannot check the guys that he's matched up against, you've got to try going to Goga, because Mo Wagner is not the best defensive guy in the world. And when the guys that he's supposed to be matching up with are going off, you've got to try to find an answer to slow those guys down, because short of bringing Wendell Carter Jr. back into the game, you don't really have an answer at that point. So this was sort of all over. Everybody shares some of the blame in this game to me. At the end of the day, you watch the tape once, you burn the film, you're on to the next game.
Yeah, 100%. And the Mo Goga thing is interesting. Memphis has just a ton of big bodies. I think if you have Jonathan Isaac in this game, that it looks very different. I'm not going to say the Magic win, but I think it definitely looks very different, because Jonathan Isaac, I feel would have given Jay Huff, Santi Aldama, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Zach Edey. That's the other big guy. They got those 4 big dudes that are rotating in and out. He would have obviously given them a little more of a difficult time. And so, yeah, wish you could have had him. Hope we get him back soon, hopefully Monday. But yeah, like you said, burn the film. Here's the problem, though, Jonathan. You play Memphis second night of a back-to-back tonight. I looked ahead. Magic play Memphis again in the springtime on the second night of a back-to-back again. So if Memphis is going to keep up with this pace, with this style, Magic better be ready to play them on the second night of a back-to-back coming up here.
That's going to be one of those where it's that's a get-back game. We remember what they did to us, on their home floor. Now it's time for us to get one on our home floor. I'm going to have that one circled on my calendar. This Memphis team, now they don't have Dylan Brooks anymore, so they're a little bit less annoying, but to me, they're still pretty annoying. Yeah. So I hope that that's a game that this team is going to circle on their calendar. We have to talk about Anthony Black.
Yeah.
10 points a game, not 10 points a game, but 10 points again in this game. He's averaging close to 10 points a game. 10 points, 3 assists, a block, 2 turnovers, 4 of 8 from the floor, 2 of 2 from the free throw line. Just continues to make an impact defensively when he's in these games. And his newfound aggressiveness and getting to the rim and being able to finish at the rim brings an element to this team that we don't have a ton elsewhere. Really out of Paolo and Franz. I don't know that there's anybody else on the team that is getting to the rim at the rate that he is and being able to finish efficiently, being able to create his own offense, get to the rim and score. What have been your thoughts of Anthony Black? And I'm not the type of person that wants to create like, drama amongst the fan base and talk about things that we shouldn't talk about, but people are talking about Anthony Black.
Here's the thing. First off, you talk about him averaging maybe 10 points. He has scored 10 points in every game. Exactly 10.
Perfect.
So he is averaging 10 points on the season. Yeah, 10 points for him, 3.3 rebounds, 4 assists per game so far this season. Yeah, he's been terrific. Like you said, not just the ability to get to the rim, but his finishing at the rim has been almost flawless, which is wild. But you love to see it. He's definitely taking advantage of his frame, his 6'7" frame that we didn't really see him do that a lot last year. But yeah, this newfound confidence, like I'm totally in. And Orlando City doubles their lead. Let's go. Totally in on Anthony Black.
6 of 11 at the rim so far this year.
Yeah,
according to Cleaning the Glass.
Yeah, I'm totally all in Anthony Black. There are conversations amongst Magic Internet about Anthony Black automatically starting now. Like Moses got to find a way. And I understand that to some extent. But here's where I have an issue with that. What happens to that second unit if you take Anthony Black away? Because right now, with Cole Anthony not being able to score, who's going to score on that second unit, right? Like you got Gary Harris, but Gary Harris isn't he's not going to get buckets for himself. He needs to be set up. You got Mo Wagner. Mo can somewhat score on his own. You got Jonathan Isaac, and he needs someone to set him up. Like that second unit needs somebody to create. And so Anthony Black being able to, whether it's get to the rim or find other guys, you got to have somebody. And so if you decide you want to put him on the starting unit, like that second unit just evaporates to me offensively. So I'm nowhere close to talking about Anthony Black in the starting lineup yet, but I love what he's doing. I love that he's taking advantage of this opportunity. And I mean, I think it also has to be said, and this is not a dig necessarily, but the upgrade from Markelle to Anthony Black is just night and day. Love Markelle Fultz. Loved having him in Orlando. But last season, very clearly the writing was on the wall, and we see why. Like Anthony Black, what a huge upgrade he's been. Again, small sample size, but definitely excited to see how he progresses through the season.
I totally agree of everything that you just said about Anthony Black specifically. I do want to put my attention to the conversation around Anthony Black and him starting. For me, it's as simple as this. You have like almost $55 million committed to your backcourt starting next year.
Yeah.
There is no way in what that they are going to be benching either Jalen Suggs or Kentavious Caldwell-Pope at this juncture. It is just not happening. I like, unless Anthony Black starts scoring 25 points a game, like it is just not happening. Like it is just not possible in modern professional basketball team dynamics for you to pay a guy like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in the summer, bring him in, and then for a guy that's he's not playing well, like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, maybe the offense isn't exactly in rhythm just yet. He's still learning where to be on the floor, how to play with these guys. Guys are still learning like where he likes the ball, all that kind of stuff. Defensively, he has been superb, has been
so good,
like almost flawless on that side of the ball, has just been so good. Like his ability to strip guys as they're going up without fouling is genuinely ridiculous. Our guy Luke Sylvia, who we love very much, that I got to see Friday night, he always likes to say that Gary Harris has the fastest hands on the team. I've been meaning to text Luke this. He might be hearing this for the first time right now. Gary's got to pass that belt over to KCP. KCP's got the quickest hands on the team, I think, and the offense is going to come around. Jalen had a rough game Saturday against Memphis, but was good against Brooklyn, was good against Miami. We've talked about that. And there are going to be growing pains with Jalen Suggs. If you were asking me right now who is better suited to help facilitate the offense in that starting lineup, it's Anthony Black. I'm not going to argue with anybody. He is more of a natural playmaker in that regard, at just getting guys in the right spots, getting organized. He's better at finishing at the rim right now. I think his size helps him in that regard. I heard you and Sam in the post-game live talking about the possession where the Magic come up with a turnover. Jalen Suggs is running to the rim and he sees Ja Morant. He decides not to go up with that. I kind of understand why, because Ja is such a freak athlete. It felt like a business decision. In my mind, I was thinking, like, if Jalen goes up with this, it's a 50-50 shot that Ja is going to punch this against the rim or against the backboard. So I didn't hate it there. But, like, you do want to see him go up and, maybe it's start on, go with the reverse. That way, you have the rim to protect you and Ja can't block it and you're able to reverse it off the glass. But there were always going to be growing pains with Jalen in this instant. The most realistic path that I see to Anthony Black being in the starting lineup is next season at the absolute earliest. If you decide to move on from Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, you feel like you can still get an asset and you're not going to bench that guy. He's making whatever it is, $23 million a year, and you want to get Anthony Black into the starting lineup and move Jalen Suggs back to the 2. Like, I understand those types of conversations. I do think most realistically, that's probably 2 years away, right? But this guy, 2-time NBA champ, just came over from a contender, your most significant free agency signing in basically a decade. You don't then turn around and trade that guy after 1 year. In my opinion, that just sends a bad message to the rest of the league. Like, this guy left where he was, a very successful spot, wanted to take a chance on him. And the second that we realized that we had a guy that was capable of starting off the bench, we moved him. To me, that's not the move. Anthony Black is great. I do think we have to get the ball in his hands, get him more opportunities. The answer is not putting him into the starting lineup. Also, it's only been 3 games.
Right, yeah. And the other thing, like you talked about KCP and his hands and his defense. According to Stat Defender, he has the best defensive field goal percentage so far in the regular season. Again, 3 games, small sample size, but opponents are shooting 30% when guarded by KCP.
Opponents are sharding their pants.
They are when they see KCP, they are sharding and shooting 30%. Yeah, best in the league, right? Like, so obviously offensively, Kenny, quote unquote, hasn't. I still don't want to call him that. It feels weird. I don't know.
It does feel weird, but he wants to be called.
He wants
so
to. I don't know.
It's
weird. Our friend Kenny, offensively hasn't had the best start. Obviously, again, start is just so weird. It's been 3 games, but defensively, you cannot be any happier with what he's been doing. It's been crazy, and so, there's pros and cons to all that. I think we can probably mostly all agree we think Anthony Black is the point guard of the future for this team. But when we say future, we're talking years, not games. I think that's probably pretty fair to say.
And it's such a good problem to have, right? Like, I think Sam, I think it was Sam talking about on the postgame live. It's good to have guys who are capable and not have enough opportunities versus having enough opportunities and not enough guys who are capable. Like, I thought he put that. I think that was Sam. If that was you, I apologize. But whichever
definitely wasn't me. I'm not that eloquent.
Well, it was like I was going to say it was very eloquent. It was really the best way to put that. Where I think there is more opportunity for Anthony Black is to be like really the only guy to have the ball in his hands in that second unit, which, again, 3 games in, I'm not pulling the fire alarm, anything like that just yet. But Cole Anthony has struggled. I don't know that anybody would disagree with that. Cole Anthony certainly has struggled in the first few games here. I do feel like people are sort of like, everybody's playing well, it feels like, except for Cole at various points in these games. So it's people are seeing like one thing that isn't perfect and they're jumping all over that. But he has not been great. And if it wasn't for the fact that really like 80% of last season wasn't playing up to the level that we had anticipated from him, I wouldn't be jumping to this conclusion like right away like we are now. But let me go ahead and pull up Cole Anthony's stats on the year so far. So in 3 games and 14.9 minutes per game, he's shooting 23% from the floor, 12.5% from behind the arc, 3.3 assists, 1.7 turnovers. And he is averaging 2.7 points per game right now. Again, in almost 15 minutes, Cole is averaging 2.7 points per game through the first 3 games. That is not good enough. A guy who every time seemingly he touches the floor, apart from opening night, which was like totally in garbage time, but 3 out of the last 4 times we've seen Jet Howard on the floor, the dude just comes in and almost automatically lights it up. And if Cole isn't doing the thing that you asked Cole Anthony to do, which is come in, be that offensive spark plug, he's not giving you what you need out of him, what you expect from him. And Jet Howard just gives you things that we don't really have elsewhere on the roster. Like the ability to just give him the ball on the wing and within like 2 to 3 dribble moves, create enough space for him to rise up and hit a three. And it just seems like every time he pulls up, it's going to go in. I'm not at the point where I'm saying move Jet into the lineup for Cole Anthony. Not saying that at all. But if Cole's current level of play continues, I don't know how much longer of a leash you can give him. And it just feels like you either just have to have him in a different role in that second unit and just give Anthony Black the ball the entire time, or you've got to give somebody else an opportunity with those minutes.
I hear you and I agree. I'm still hitting the brake pedal on Jet Howard. Not that I don't think he is good or can be good. He got his first like truly competitive minutes, literally of his career,
entire career
on Saturday. Okay, it was short. Like I wish I could see. I'm trying to figure out how long he came in. It wasn't very long. Just like it was less than 2 minutes. I think he came in. In
that first half, he played 4 minutes.
Okay, that's more than I expected. 4 minutes he came in before obviously the garbage time stuff. So my thing with him in those 4 minutes, again, you talk about small sample size. 4 minutes is a small sample size. He did nothing basically. I think he missed a three in there. But outside of that, now part of that is, he's obviously surrounded by a much different cast than at the end of games in garbage time, where he's more of a focal point than, if he's out there with, kind of our first teamers, if you will. So we still have yet to see him actually contribute in meaningful minutes in an NBA game. On the flip side of that is he has not been given that opportunity, right? So I'm more of hitting the brakes as like, let's see him get that opportunity and see how he does. Not so much being like, oh, he's ready. He's definitely ready. He's going to play better than Cole, all that kind of stuff. I just haven't seen it yet. Not saying he can't do it, but at this point, it's hard to believe that anything would be as bad as what Cole has been, right? Like there's at least I think, give him a chance, let him try it out. And if he's more of a disaster, go back to Cole. I don't know. It's definitely a tough spot that Mosley's in, though, when it comes to that second unit.
Yeah, I'm definitely nowhere near saying like, oh, just give him the Cole minutes, even though, maybe like an emotional reaction like during the game where I'm like, maybe we give this kid a chance. But I do think he at least has to be given the opportunity to see if he can give us more. And, Cole has been here long enough. Now he's in his 5th season where I think we owe him the benefit of the doubt to believe that maybe he doesn't play his way to, maybe what we expected, out of him after, the strong close that he had to the season a couple of years ago. But certainly give him the opportunity where he shows that he can be impactful and like contribute to winning. Right now, he's really not being able to do that. Friday night against Brooklyn, when he came in that second half, I thought he played with really good energy, was playing really gritty, got knocked to the floor multiple times, was able to get back up. And Cole has shown that, given the opportunity, he can get to that level. I'm just now at the point with Cole Anthony, it's like you have to be able to do it consistently. And if you can't, I think the Magic owe it to not us, not the fans, but they owe it to the rest of the roster that is working on a day in and day out basis and trying to win these games. And apart from that Memphis game, everybody else is playing pretty well. If a guy isn't contributing, and we're really keeping everyone accountable, and guys are on the bench and they're in practice and they're fighting for an opportunity, and when they do get opportunities, they're showing some good flashes, and you do have the 11th overall pick invested into Jet Howard, and you have the 18th pick invested into a guy like Tristan da Silva. At some point, if Cole continues playing at this level, I do think we see somebody else get an opportunity, and I think you have to give somebody else an opportunity at that point.
Yeah, and that somebody has to be Jet, right? Like he's next in line.
I would absolutely agree with that.
100% agree. And I think just the ultimate question is, how long is the leash? How long is the leash on Cole? How many games? And obviously, we all want Cole to be better, right? Like that. No one's rooting against him, but he's got to have a leash, and the question mark really is how long it is.
Yeah, and I do think when the team is winning, obviously, that leash can be a little bit longer,
right?
And it's not that. In no realm of reality are we saying that Cole even had like a large part to do with the loss. Did he help? Not really.
No.
But it's not like Cole was the guy that came in and lost you this game. Like this was a collective
for sure.
effort from the coaching staff to to the players. Like everybody holds this L pretty equally, but that's going to be in terms of like roster storylines that we've had in the past. The point where we're at now is like, oh, is Anthony Black so good that he needs to start over other guys who are also playing pretty well for the most part? Good problem to have. And then it's like, hey, we've got this guy that we invested a draft pick into last year. Maybe we feel like he's good enough to come in and play over a guy like Cole Anthony, who has multiple game winners, big plays in the playoffs, all that. Like, these are good problems to have. But yeah, the thing that I still have a little bit of a question mark is, and I was actually talking to Vazan about this today, is like, did the Magic maybe not realize that Anthony Black was going to be as good as he's been, as quickly as he's been this year? Because if he was, do you make, and I'm not saying this, now that I'm saying it out loud, it kind of sounds dumb, but do you still make the move for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope? Vazan's answer was yes. The answer probably is yes, but it's also like, Anthony Black just feels like he needs more room to breathe and have the freedom to make plays and see what this kid really has. And that is not coming in the starting lineup. Sorry for whoever that disappoints, but just feels like Jamal has to find a way to give this kid more opportunities to like really flex his muscles. It's like, how long is he going to be patient? He's, again, 3 games sample size, but it seems like this kid is going to be a high quality starter in the league. How long is he going to be patient, even if he is like the 6th man and has all this opportunity off the bench? How long before he's like, I want more than that?
Yeah, it feels a little early for that kind of stuff for me.
That's fair.
I hear what you're saying though. The concept is definitely there, but I think if he's been around this culture obviously for a year. He's seen the likes of a Jet Howard have to spend a year in the G League. He's seen, guys basically have to kind of wait their turn. And so I feel like he'll be okay with that. And again, the cool thing about this team is they're such a great unit. We hear it all the time. And, they root for each other and they're team players and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not worried about that as far as Anthony Black being necessarily impatient or anything. Right now he's getting consistent minutes, which he didn't get last year. So already that's an upgrade for him. And so, yeah, I'm not worried about that. But yeah, he's been really fun to watch so far this season. And I just can't wait to see how he continues.
The week ahead for the Orlando Magic, Kevin, let's go ahead and break that down. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday this week. Monday at home against the Indiana Pacers. Then the Magic start a 5-game road trip. They'll start on Wednesday by heading out to Chicago. That game is going to tip off at 8 o'clock. Then on Friday, where not you, but I will be at Rivals on Wall Street. We'll miss you, and we'll be excited for you to make your first trip down here. But we'll be at Rivals on Wall Street on Friday as the Magic take on the Cleveland Cavaliers. And then on Sunday, they're in Dallas to take on the Dallas Mavericks. What's your take on this week? And then we'll give our predictions.
My first take is it's a tough week. That's 3 out of 4 games against playoff teams, Chicago being the only non-playoff team last year. So, man, my heart thinks you can go 3-1 here. But I'm probably going to be go on the safe side and say 2-2. That's what I'm going to say. I feel like you beat Indiana on Monday. And by the way, Indiana played Sunday afternoon against Philadelphia. So they'll be on a second night of a back-to-back. And that game went to overtime. So let's see. Siakam played 40 minutes. Miles Turner played 37 minutes. Tyrese Halliburton played 37 minutes. So those guys, second night of a back-to-back, overtime game. You got to beat Indy at home. Take advantage of that rest advantage. Okay. I think you beat Indy. I think you beat Chicago. Oh, man, that means I have us losing to Cleveland. I don't want to do that. I'm going to stick with it. I'll say you beat Indy, you beat Chicago, and then you fall to Cleveland and Dallas. So I'm going to go 2-2. But I think we could go 3-1, but I'll go 2-2.
I'm going 3-1. You get the win Monday versus Indiana. You should beat Chicago. And then it's the rematch. I think these guys have been thinking about that series all offseason. And if there's any opportunity early in the year to sort of like avenge that and make feel a little bit better for yourself, it's going to be that game in Cleveland. You're going to avenge having that 18-point lead in the first half and sort of whatting that away. So they get that W as well. And then I'll have them losing on Sunday in Dallas to the Mavericks. So I have the Magic going 3-1 this week.
Love that.
All right, Kev, I think that is going to do it for this one. This has been a long episode. Appreciate everybody hanging in, and we want to hear your thoughts as well. So if you're watching on YouTube, let us know what you think in the comments about all of these things that we just talked about. But Kev, I think that is going to end it for this one.
Yeah, hey, it's exciting to have Magic basketball back. It's just we haven't had ball to talk about in so long. So yeah, glad to have it back. But yeah, this will be an interesting week. We're going to find out a lot about this team this week. Like, I really think so. And so yeah, we'll see how they do.
Yeah, having basketball back definitely makes this a lot easier and a lot more fun. So we always appreciate that. But that is going to do it for this one. For Kevin Tucker, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to the Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!